Definitely, this is Equatorial TV, and we are coming live from Nairobi, Kenya, where we have some good news and indeed a very interesting story. Journalists have been uh, come together, together to ensure that they are doing something that is efficient through what we call Africa Gender and Media Initiative Trust, which is taking place right now from Nairobi, Kenya. And just to mention some few or what have been just happened is that we want to know exactly what is going on and what should be done, specifically the media reporting on what we call sensitive issues. And delightfully, thank you for watching. I'm your host, Kakajuma, and I'm coming live from Nairobi, Kenya, and just to see what is going on here in Kenya to ensure that you get exactly what has happened and what will happen. Keeping in mind that COVID-19 protocols is supposed to be observed, and always for anyone to interact with each other is supposed to have what we call the memorizations. We have what we call the a way forward in which media should handle what we call the gender reporting. And some of the issues that have been discussed here are many, but we will be focusing on one or two, three to ensure that we give you the in-depth details on what is going on and what is happening. And I'm so much delighted to be with one of the participants. But before we go there, we've seen what we call gender bias, or the gender have been also a very quick norm, or some problems have come out to ensure that people are given what we call equity and equality. Also, they have looked on some of the issues on gender equity, women rights, gender equality, and what we call fairness. If we talk of gender, or in many people terms, they might think of what we call the women. But here we've learned a lot. Kakajuma being one of them, or being one of the participants, we've been able to learn on how do we go while reporting in what we call gender sensitive issues. We have some terms and languages to be used. But for the meantime, what are we supposed to come up or means to ensure that media houses, both locally and internationally, reports to what we call the correct and use the correct terms to refer to whatever it is. For instance, we have just noted some of the terms. For instance, chairperson is the general word, but the chair lady or chairman should not be used with this term. So I'm so much delighted to be joined by one of the veterans. Let me use that word, veteran journalists who have done what we call the story that almost touches every part of the world, or every person who listen for her story is called Gentrix Olwor from the Royal Media, that is Citizen Radio. And she will be talking to us exactly what she has learned from this and what she expects. And in future, what does she going to do to ensure while reporting he maintain all this? Welcome, Gentrix, to Equatorial TV, and feel free to share with us what. Start with your name and tell us what you've learned from this particular moment.
Thank you so very much, Kakajuma, for having me. My name is Gentrix Sodwar. I work with Royal Media Services as a features reporter and a news reader. So we've been here for 3 days. This is the third day. We've been learning on issues to do with gender and sensitive reporting. And it has been a great opportunity because I got to learn about several issues on things like stereotype or making women look weak when doing our stories. And we tend to portray men as the stronger people. And also, there was an issue of when a woman makes it to the top, the first thing that we always ask as journalists is how do you balance, your career and your family instead of focusing on the real issue. So one thing that I've learned is that, yeah, it's not bad to ask about the balance and all that, but the first thing we should focus on is, okay, her success, how did she get there, what she's going to do, and all that. And another thing that I also learned from this training uh, is that in most cases of gender-based violence, we tend to associate it with women. when in reality, men are also suffering from this. So those are kind of stories that we need to highlight more and bring them out more, and just to give equal opportunities to both parties. The other thing was on networking, creating your network. Like we were told that your network is your net worth. So, like, you need to watch how you brand yourself, because the way you carry yourself is how people remember you out there. And the there's a lot of issues that I've learned. So what I'd like to tell other journalists out there is that maybe they should do more reading on issues to do with gender, because there are a lot of stories that I feel that we need to tell from this perspective.
Indeed, thank you so much, Gentrix, and we are hoping to meet you next time. But for the meantime, we are heading to, they will be having some several interviews. The journalists who are here to ensure that we give you the updates on what is going on and what is happening, specifically what might be the reason for these organizations to come up. The organization is called She Leads. She Leads is the organization that is starting to ensure that they train and portray some several issues regarding uh, concerning the what we call the gender sensitive reporting, and they have been hosted here for 3 days to ensure that they come when they get out they report genuinely on what we call the gender sensitivity. And we will be getting your views where you're watching as people from different parts of the countries and parts of the continent. For instance, those people who are watching us from Canada, Great Manchester, Juba, Somalia, Cairo, and other parts of the world, we wish to know what should be reported, specifically when it keeps in mind of what we call gender. Keeping in mind that Kenya government have tried to get the two-third gender rule. It means that they haven't reached what we call the exact quorum to ensure that they get to in touch on what we refer to as gender balance. So we are here to ensure that we give you the updates regarding to what is going on, the training all about, and we will be having the facilitators of this meeting to ensure that he tells us what exactly is going on and how would we have to go with, keeping in mind that COVID-19 protocol is supposed to be observed, and we're supposed to go with the rules and what should be done, how should be learned, and all specifications. So we are here to ensure that we give you the details as it goes or as it unfolds. Uh, I'll be releasing the Gentrix for those Kenyans who know Gentrix. Odwira has done several stories concerning what we call the story yangu. When we say the my story, he has done some stories that have left other people's mouth blank. So we wish to know more about other reporters on what should be done, and specifically keeping in mind that the COVID-19 and gender sensitive issue. We've talked about the gender violence, the GBV and other things. And for this instance, what should we do? So thank you so much, uh, Gentrix. So wish to release you so that you go and continue with other things. We will be getting the one of the facilitators to give us more details. So thank you so much. Okay, so we are keeping on and moving on with what we call the Equatorial Live, and we can get more details on or concerning the details of the person. So we are here to ensure that we give you more impacts and give you more details concerning the what is going on here. And as you've heard from the what you call the veteran reporter, that's Gentrick Sodwori, is talked about the stereotypes, and under stereotypes we have what we call prejudice, and also we have some of the sentiments that might be touched and or not touched. But for instance, we keep on regarding to how will we have to form all the formations of what is going on and how should we move with it. I'll be getting in touch with one of the facilitators, and he will be telling us more. He will be telling us more about what is going on and how it should be done. So specifically, we are here live from Nairobi, Kenya, to give you the insight about gender sensitive. And through gender sensitive, we will be giving us more details about what should we do to ensure that we come up with good reporting and better amplifications of the amplifications of how the gender should be reported and some of the issues. And as we have been talking to the one of the reporters, the veteran reporters, she has talked about what has to be done and how it should be done, and it should be uh, done in which moderation. And here we have some several questions that have been raised, and we will be giving you more details about how should it be done and who should be given. Thank you. Indeed, we are here to give you more details, and shortly I will be joined by what we call the facilitators to give us more in-depth stories on what is going on and how it should be happen. We have also seen some of the issues that have been risen is that how do we report on issues of masculine and what we call feminines? And through that, we will be able to ensure that we get in touch with the facilitator to give us more about how should it be done and who should doing this. Specifically, we look at what we call the media. Media has the impact, and as from the fourth estate, is supposed to be given a very huge terms for them to portray some information. So the media is what we call the agenda settings, and through the training, it might bring most of the issues out. And for these discussions, it will bring them out to come up with some of the stories which might be touching and more detailed. And for such instance, it gives us some impressions from media sides that we're supposed to give and also respect what we call the gender. Here in Kenya, they have pushed, and some other countries, we've seen the changes that the government is taking deputy president. If the president is the man, then the deputy president becomes the woman. And also in other side, if they here in Kenya, governor or other representations, and we've seen the women's sensitivities or the gender as being picking up. What might be the repercussion if the country doesn't get to what we call the percentage that we want to acquire? So it is a very wonderful and interesting stories regarding to what we call the gender sensitive issues happening to what we call the Kenya and media. So I'll be getting in your views and how it should be done and how to be done here in Kenya. But for the meantime, I'll be shortly joined by one of the facilitators who are here for Africa Gender and Media Initiative Trust, who will be giving us more details as it unfolds. As we keep on pushing, as we keep on pushing, we'll be telling you more information about how should Media Kenya report. And most of the issues that have been touched, we have what we call networking and maintaining the list of the people you have, and also talking on how it should be done specifically here in Kenya. And we have most of the people who have come out to say, for instance, we've got this change and we have got this change, but definitely to some countries might be have not happened. So it gives an opportunities for you to come out and give the portrayal of the what should be done and how should it be done. And mostly it gives an impressions on where to go and how to move, but definitely it gives to the some of the content, the what we call an initiative of being an activism or all social implementations. And it has been go to an extent, it has gone to an extent, it has gone to an extent, it has gone to an extent where most of the people have to come out with solutions to ensure that they come up with a way or mechanism to report on this one. Just having some difficulties, but I'll be reading some of the comments coming right now. I wish one of the camera person to help me to get some of the guests here for me to ensure that we go with time, keeping in mind that the time frame is a key factor. So I will be discussing more on how to move with it. And there are some of through the initiative and movements with the Media Council of Kenya, that is the Media Council of Kenya, they have come up with a group and an initiative to ensure that they go with mechanism. So the Media Council is also involved, that is Kenya Media Council, or the organization that regulates what we call the reporting and what media should air. So keeping in mind that this is supposed to be a very sensitive issue, they have decided to come, despite of uh, being an organizations that deal with training both locally and international reporters, it gives you also a sensitizations on what to report and what not to report. And being one of the attendees of that session, they have touched some of the issues regarding to what we call gender as the society thing, because society think that gender is all about the community, the women are preferred, but in reality, what it is done is that gender is not about the women. Gender is all about how should we do and what it should be done. Repeatedly, you've seen that women rights, that is women rights is supposed to be observed, and women rights are derived from what we call the human rights. And human rights is okay for one to be derived. So women might be having some of the challenges, but it is not that it is a gender. Also, they have talked about gender integrations and what we call women's in what we call gender in what we call mainstreaming. Also, gender stereotypes, where we've talked of women's uh, talking or having what we call the some of the myths and misconceptions regarding the women's in our early sessions or in early sessions they talked about sex being biological while gender in the society thoughts what the society thing is. For instance, women's might be thought of being uh, going to kitchen, but in reality, women have gone to school, they have learned, they have other things to do, not really in kitchens, but according to the society think that women are supposed to be in what we call kitchen. But in reality, kitchen is no longer associated with women. Also, we have what we call uh, these people have the gender stereotypes. Maybe they have what we call somebody bargains for themselves. Also, they have talked about gender-based violence, which derives from the gender norms and roles. For instance, women have been seen attacked so much. But what is the reality? And what should be reported? Because women have to be taken positively and also men have to be taken positive, but without, if you prejudice or you have what we call the stereotype, then it means the what you're talking is no longer existing. Also, they have talked about gender matters and what we call gender stereotype in regard to what we call the gender matters. Also, we have seen what can be seen on lens, specifically when media is reporting here now, the journalists, that man's world, because you've seen most of men's dominating compared to what we call the women's. Also, tough space to women's. If you look at what we call the voting and election post, you've seen most of women's will not get those positions as per compared to what we call the world of normality and gender balance. Also, we've seen what we call small illustrations or regarding to men's. For instance, if a woman is given a chance as one of the participants, she will be asked, how are you going to balance between the professional and the what we call the career and life? Because it seems, but when man gets the chance, the case is different. Also, women have been taken as those not allied because the tone they asked or questions, depending to women, is different. Because what happens is that women can be asked, "Do you know about something else?" But man is the point, or the tone to be answered is always goes straight compared to women. So also we have what we call having a base to start for what we call doing the interview. How do you do that? And through that, we've been able to be being joined by one of the facilitators, who is the gamer for uh, that is Gamer Africa Gender and Media Initiative, who is being joined us to shed light more about what is going on here and how it should be done, and what is the main agenda for this meeting. Thank you so much for joining Equatorial TV and welcome. Feel free to share what is all about these sessions and what is your expectation.
Yeah, so my name is Gladys Kio. I work for African Gender and Media Initiative Trust. Uh, and African Gender and Media Initiative Trust, under the She Leads project, has organized this sensitization for journalists. And the purpose of this sensitization is to improve gender sensitive reporting, to ensure that conversations out there or messages out there through the media are gender sensitive, and they project a positive image about women, a positive conversation. We are looking at, under the Shilis, we are working transform to transform gender norms, especially through working with communities, working with the media, and working with duty bearers. So one of the things that we want to do as we work with communities is to amplify this transformation, the need to view girls, women, men, and boys through an equity lens, so that we can change the narratives that have for a very long time uh, led to inequalities, led to gender-based violence, and other injustices in society. So the purpose of this sensitization is to have conversations with journalists, because they have a reach in the millions, so that their conversation, first for them to understand the gender dynamics, the imbalances that we talk about, so that in their broadcast, in their writing, they are able to infuse language and project a lens of equity, especially on issues around women. And this is quite timely because we are going also into an elective year. We have seen that women, girls are not very well represented in leadership positions. So this is also timely because we are having these conversations. We need to look at women not as victims, not as a weaker player, but people who have abilities, who are capable, and who have qualities and who are ability to lead in the various spaces, politically and in other spaces. So this gender conversation is to ensure that our conversations are conversations on equity, on fairness, and in cases where we are dealing with situations where the conversations are not balanced, then we can infuse that balance by respecting the rights of women and men and boys and girls, uh, uh, ensuring that the field is just not only level, but also the circumstances. We address the circumstances that bring the imbalance in the field. That is why this conversation is important.
So why at this particular time, and keeping in mind that Kenya is heading to election?
Um, this I just say that this particular time is timely. It is just a coincidence that we have this project during this time, but the gender conversation is important every day. So because it's just not in election, women and boys and society is here every day. The imbalances we are talking about maybe manifest and amplified during elections, but there are situations that we deal with them on an everyday basis. I'll give an example. When we say that we want all children to go to school and we put an emphasis of boys and girls, it is because over time we have seen that girls are not enrolling at the same rate with boys. Beyond enrollment, there is the retention and transition. So we laud the efforts that government and other institutions have put in place to ensure that there is 100% enrollment, but there are certain challenges, some structural, some social, that make the retention of girls in school become an issue. For example, issues of early pregnancy are a main challenge in terms of retention, because when girls go to school and they get pregnant, they will need to take a break for childbirth and nurturing the child for some time. Issues around menstrual health management, we need infrastructure that is supportive for the girls, so that when it is time for them to have their periods, the infrastructure is supportive. And with this, I mean the toilets, the bathrooms, to ensure that these girls go through that process with dignity and respect. The other thing around menstrual health management is provision of sanitary towels. Those products are not cheap. Those products are not available. Those products are not affordable. So we need to ensure that a girl who is in school has access to those products, just the way she has an access to a textbook, so that she can be comfortable in class, go through that process, and ensure that there are no inconveniences. Because the challenges that come with that is that then this girl misses school for 3 to 5 days, and that accounts for something in terms of her acquiring education. So those are some of the challenges that manifest the imbalances that we have in society. So yes, the election is here, but then we are dealing with a bigger societal issues that we need to continuously address. I must say we have made substantial progress, but we are not there yet. So there is need to continue having community conversation, because that is where it stops. Gender imbalance is deeply rooted in cultural norms, and it is transmitted through culture. So it is important to talk to communities for them to see the benefit and the reasoning behind equality, so that men and women start enjoying that space from home. And when that happens from home, they're able to carry this notion to everywhere else they go. So when we start at the community level, we are also able to transform all the other institutions that form part of the societal structure, and we can achieve a good balance. It is important beyond just economic gain. It is important for the rights of people to be respected, for the rights of women and girls to be respected, so that they can live dignified lives. At the end of the day, that is what we want: dignified lives, and women, men, boys, and girls realizing their full potential, because there is equity in society, and there is fairness. Yeah.
Talking about the gender, have you set up some of the organizations that look after the cases, maybe gender violence or the FGM and other things?
So we have quite a number of civil society organizations spread all over the country, looking at addressing these issues of gender. As a GEM Trust, we do that. We create awareness in communities. We work with duty bearers to ensure that the legal and policy environment is suitable and sustaining and facilitating transformation of gender norms. So we are doing that. In our bit, we currently work in 5 counties in Kenya. I am aware of efforts also of other civil society organizations that also are doing the same work. Ultimately, then, what we are doing complements the work of the duty bearer. So, working with duty bearers also facilitates and sustains the changes that we are looking at. As she leads, we are working very, very closely with duty bearers, building capacity, and also engaging them to look at areas where we are still not doing well, okay, as a country, and having conversations of how do we make it better, because this is not the work of civil society only. This is the work of all of us. All of us must commit to transform gender norms, must commit to equity, so that then we build a society that is good for all.
Your last sentence as we leave.
What I would want to say is that today we are sensitizing journalists. I want to say that the media plays a very critical role in shaping opinion, in passing information, and informing society. So if that role can be used to transform and have a gender transformative conversation, that would go really, really a long way. If we can have conversations or messages that are about equity, that are gender responsive, that are gender transformative, that will already be a very big step in addressing the issues that are at hand. Yeah.
Thank you so much. The one of the facilitators, thank you so much for the hearing and also accepting our Equatorial TV invitations. And thank you so much for facilitating and also working out to ensure that you sensitize journalists throughout these sessions. I know you will call and call so that you keep on informing them both locally and internationally. And also thank you so much for inviting Equatorial TV. For our viewers who are watching us, I wish to give the chance for the facilitators at least to get and also do other things. But thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Heading on is that we've seen most of the interest and most of the what is going on here is a very big step and mileage that intends to bring media to what we call a place where they're supposed to understand and know what it should be done and how it should be done. But definitely, it gives you a certain chance to tell your story. When telling your story, was supposed to be done and how it's supposed to be do. And also, we'll be joining by one of the interviews to get us more details or in depth of how do we move, how do we go, what we have learned, and what should be done. Specifically, we are coming live from Nairobi, Kenya, where we are here to give you more in-depth and details. And just to give you some of the issues that have been discussed is that what media should watch out for. For instance, how should media portray and what should be looked out? So we will be also looking at how to gather what we call the news or news gathering format. And you have mentioned that is through what we call the Media Council of Kenya, one of the initiative or the one of the organizations that takes in the what media should be airing and what should not be aired. And we are here to, they've talked about achieving balance representative of women and men. That is after this meeting, they're supposed to ensure that at least they achieve the gender balance. That is men, that is initiative. Also, they have talked about diverse stories and voice of people from particularly ones on that and are often invisible in media. For instance, we don't use what we call only men who are involved in what we call panelists or pundits. But here we are talking of less involved, both of them, men's and women's, boys and girls. Also, they have talked about you're supposed to go out there as a reporter. for you to come up with what we call report stories. For instance, you go out away in story of women's in areas such as politics, war, conflict, science and technology, and etc. Or you reporter for you to ensure that you balance is supposed to get all these. Then pay attention to the balanced representative representations of men's and women. You're supposed also to do what you call paying the balance of men's and women's. Also have better networking, read widely, fair portrayal of women's, girls, mans, and what you call boys. Remember to use gender language when you're reporting. For instance, this is what I'm learning here to ensure that they get to what we call a format of where one can understand and have the momentum of reporting. Also, they have talked about how media is structured, the way media is structured. They have looked at it. Specifically, when you say all this, it means that for you to report on anything, you're supposed to have at least structure and how it should be implemented. Some of the what we call the protocols and rules, policies to be given out for you to ensure that you do to the contrary on what we call the gender and other media reporting. And through this, it will help it will help those reporters who have attended this session for them to know. And as from the perspective of what we've discussed is that one of those facilitators have talked about gender balance, and one of them have talked about you're supposed to the women's have lacked what we call representations and ability to lead. Then conversation of equity infuse the balance. Circumstances sometimes rectified one of the things. Also, structure social. For instance, they have talked about when early pregnancy starts, then it means that those people have to leave the school. For instance, supposed to leave the school and do other thing. And then also I've talked about the sanitary towel where most of girls lack what we call sanitary towel, and that thing is very expensive. So there's what we call required equal responsibilities, and specifically, they're supposed to give a norm and some of the equities to come out with what you call manufacture and structured way of giving out one of the socialization. So I think from there. Uh, I'll be joined by one of the interviews to ensure that he tell us what exactly going on here. One of the journalists to tell us what is going on here to give us more about details. So thank you so much. One of the journalists who is doing the story specifically in slums area, that is in Kibra and other parts of the world. So we are here, and tell us more about what is going on here and why are you here? Start with your name.
Thank you so much. So my name is Thomas Bwire. I'm a journalist working for a platform called Habari Kibra. Habari Kibra is a media startup. Basically, we're based in Kibera, and we look at telling stories on solution-based kind of stories in terms of how we tell our stories. So we look at governance stories, education, human rights, and children. And for me as a journalist, I cover a lot of stories about children and girls and young girls, especially from the informal settlements like Kibera, Madara, Korogosho, and other slums in Nairobi. Yes.
So what do you think you intend to achieve from this one?
So basically, from this workshop, it has taken us through, it's like going back to class, just to understand, to refresh our minds, to understand how can I report better stories about women and girls, how can we give them a voice, and even just discussing, understanding the equality, what is gender, what are the rights that women also need to have in a society. And for me as a storyteller, how can I also use the power of the microphone to scale up their voices? Because in my community, girls and young women go through many issues. It can be maybe it's terms of leadership issues, maybe they want to vie for leadership positions. And because of the society norms, they are pushed back to say, hey, no, you're not ready to be a leader. The man is favored. So for me as a storyteller, how can I amplify their voices so that they also come out strongly to be maybe good leaders? They can also be good leaders. Or for example, we have issues about teen mothers. We see the teen boy, the father will go back to school, but the teen mother will stay at home, and there's the child. Where are they left in the spaces? How can they also have a voice and it will be like through me as a journalist to come out and tell the story, so that we can improve our policies. We can work with them in the journey, so that we are also accommodating everyone to in the way they live also in the society.
Thank you. Your last sentence as we leave. What are you taking home?
Basically, for me, like as a journalist, like I need to scale up. I need to go back to the community, spend some time with uh, with my community. Like understanding like going back to the community. Listen, like having an ear on the ground. What are these issues that people undergo through every day in the society? There are things that we know, but sometimes like when you go out there and also just talk to people randomly, different sources like maybe youth, parents, the elders, they can also be able to share their ideas like that come from the society that affects especially women and girls. It can also be positive from the positive side, whereby we have some of the women that are also doing something positive for the society, that is also trying to improve livelihoods of the other people from that particular community. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Indeed, it was a very interesting live from Nairobi. I bring back to studio, back to Canada and other parts of the world to ensure that we watch our views. And this was Equatorial TV. Thank you so much. Live from Nairobi, I was your host, Kakajuma.
Can somebody get us photos? Hapo tu vile uko hivyo, huyu jamaa anasema. Mwambie tupige picha na wewe hapa hivi.